Hello, true creatives, and welcome to another episode of the Idea to Value podcast. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn, and I'm thrilled to have with me today Ashleigh Wilson. She is the CEO and founder of Auditmate and has spent her life in the elevator business. I'm not sure I was expecting to speak with someone with such a specialty, even if that's one of the careers where you're constantly going up and down. I think a lot of the listeners can relate to that. But Ashleigh, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome to the Idea to Value podcast, where in every episode we highlight the latest insights into creativity and innovation from experts around the world. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn. I care about the evidence behind what makes ideas happen, and I've already helped thousands of people just like you through my unique insights into recent scientific findings of how creativity works. I also show you how to turbocharge innovation programs so they finally deliver on the value and ideas you've been struggling to execute. Get your free training on how creativity can be improved by registering now at www.ideatovalue.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. So for people who don't know about your story, could you just give us a very brief background as to where you got started and how you got to where you are now?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a self-proclaimed elevator baby. I was raised in the elevator industry by a stepfather who was in for over 40 years. But my dad was a door-to-door salesman. So I was raised both in like a mix of this blue-collar corporate world and then also in this very entrepreneurial thinking outside of the box world. So I joined the elevator industry in my early 20s and quickly found that customers didn't understand their vague and confusing contracts, and elevator companies simply weren't doing their jobs. And so it really left customers at a loss. And I left the industry not knowing what I would do or where I was going. But at the end, I truly believe that clients don't need to be elevator experts. As humans, we just need honest and transparent information, and then we are empowered to make good decisions.
Okay, so that, I think, led you to found Auditmate. What exactly is the business?
Auditmate is the first ever elevator and escalator auditing and management software. So think of us similar to a building management software where you manage your vendors, but our twist is that we also audit. So we ensure that the client is getting everything that they're paying for when it comes to maintenance, testing, and compliance. And then we're also auditing all financials to ensure they are contract compliant and not paying any more than they should.
We were talking briefly before starting the recording. One of the things I've been looking forward to hearing from you is how you've actually gone on this journey to bring something quite disruptive to what I assume was a very old style, old mentality industry beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I have this moral compass that, we talk about moral compass often in life, whereas mine is like, I cannot move forward if it doesn't feel right. And being in the elevator industry, I was like, this just can't be right. Like, customers don't understand their contracts. It's too much to manage. And because of this, they're not getting what they're paying for. Like, it just didn't feel good. And so from me, it was, how do I empower clients to make good decisions without increasing their workload? And it took a lot of, really just rumbling with what do people need? What do these customers need? And how do we also get the elevator companies to agree and to work this way? Because you're right, they have done things the same way for a very, very, very long time. And so Auditmate is now created a double-sided portal. So the vendor has the same access that the client has. Everybody has more transparency, and it allows the vendors to also not have to do more work. And so it seems to be this nice happy medium that everybody's getting more transparent and honest information.
Now, we've talked about transparency quite a lot. it's not quite transparent to me yet what the problem that needs to be solved is, though. So you talk about people not understanding their contracts. When I think of an elevator, I obviously don't own any skyscrapers, but it's a machine that goes up and down. And I assume every now and again it needs to be checked that it's working correctly. But what is this issue with the contracts that existed beforehand?
Yeah, so elevator contracts are inherently vague and confusing. They use terms like, we will periodically maintain your equipment. Well, periodic to whom? What does periodic mean? How often are you there? What are you doing when you're there? That's the vagueness that I'm describing. And even specified maintenance contracts that say we'll be there monthly, quarterly, something that is clear in the frequency, clients are only receiving about 50% of what they're paying for from this maintenance contract, which leads to excessive breakdowns, early modernization, tenant disruption. And when the property managers don't have the tools to be able to know how often they're there and what they're supposed to be getting, they can't manage that vendor because there's no baseline to what they're managing to. That's what's not transparent to them. And so what Auditmate does is say, here's exactly what you're supposed to be getting. And then we're going to audit it 24/7 to ensure you are getting it. And when you're not, we're going to follow up with your vendor and do all the heavy lifting to ensure you get 100% of what you're paying for.
So it sounds like there's a product, there's a need in the market, there's customers which need it. All of that makes sense. But one thing I'm also really looking forward to hearing from you is how have you set up the team to actually bring their best work? Because I have a lot of startup founders on the podcast. Everyone talks about quality. Everyone talks about wanting to please the end customer. But you've got something I haven't heard before, and it's about why don't you put it in your own words?
What I like to say a lot is my team has permission to be human, which means we get to bring our full human, messy selves to work all the time. And I think that when we are able to lead with authenticity, when we believe that we are being supported in all of the versions of ourselves when we come to work, it creates this curiosity. Who are we today? How can we show up today? What do we need today? What do I need today from my teammates? And it starts the conversation in a different way. We're able to be truly authentic. We have to check in with ourselves to know what we need and to know what it takes to truly get to that place of being able to be creative. I'm of the belief that we have to be safe before we can be creative. And in order to be safe, we have to feel seen.
And what exactly does that mean? Feeling seen, feeling authentic? Is that just people have the permission to speak up? Is it about how you appear at work, how you do your work, what sort of clothes you wear? I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but what does it actually mean on the ground for your team?
All of the above. Absolutely all of the above. It's coming in all of our versions of ourselves. I expect my team to check me. I expect my team to know what they need for mental health. We have unlimited PTO in the company because I say that your mental health is your responsibility. And if you need a break, speak up. If you think that I need a break, speak up. And my team has absolutely said that to me, right? Like, Ashleigh, you seem to be on the edge of burnout. Like, hey, you're not being kind anymore. You're not showing up in a way that's supporting of the team, go take a nap in the sense that, I don't know. It's for me, it's nice being able to come in as our true human form. And it can be messy.
It's interesting to speak with a CEO who admits that their team spoke back to them about their own performance. Can you tell me about what happened there? What was happening leading up to that moment, and what did the team see? How did that exchange go?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest and most profound times that my team has checked me was I I talk a lot about people over profits. I talk a lot about heart-centered leadership and in my team and in the public. And at one point we were in the middle of a trying to ship a product. So times are really stressful. We're growing really fast. Everybody is at max capacity. And I had a few team members that weren't feeling heard. They weren't feeling supported. And on my side, what it felt like was we'd be on a meeting talking about subject A, and someone would be like, excuse me, can I ask about subject Z, in the middle of a meeting about A? And I'd be like, what, like this hard code change that I'm like, we're not, Z is so small and it's so outside of the scope of what are we talking about? Why are we talking about that? And then they felt like I was snapping. Well, I was snapping, right? But, and there was a disconnect in the communication there. And they came forward and were like, hey, you talk a lot about putting people first. Doesn't feel like you're putting us first. Whoa, right? Like, first of all, that's a dagger to the heart, just as who I am as a human. And also as a leader, that says they're people first, for your team to be like, doesn't feel like I'm first right now. Took a lot of reconciling. And this is the messiness of being human, right? Like, I had to sit down from a leader as a human and figure out, like, I know my intention is not that. So where are things getting lost in translation to make people feel that way? And what I was able to boil it down to is I didn't have an easy way for my team to come forward about the small things. It wasn't a big enough deal to set its own meeting, but yet they didn't have enough FaceTime with me, or we don't have water cooler talk anymore. We're all virtual. There isn't like, hey, let me cruise by your desk and ask you this small little question. And so these little tiny things started to pile up and pile up and pile up, which made people ask at maybe inappropriate times because it was starting to get bigger than what it actually was. So what I did is I created a log that I called "This Doesn't Make Sense" log. So that people could just write these things that like are a little annoyances or little grievances, and then we could kind of pile them together, and then either it's a training issue or it needs its own meeting, or we could group a few together and talk about it after that. But yeah.
I think what I was hearing when I was listening to that is this real balancing act that as a leader, you need to give the team the clarity on what they should be working on, while still trying to get feedback from them on how they feel it's going. And it sounds like you had a moment, or maybe a couple of moments, where in that specific moment, there was a lot of time pressure and a lot of work that needed to be done that could have been derailed if people had just been able to speak up about anything. So how did you handle that? Was this log that you created something that happened later on after this crunch time pressure had worn off, or did you stop all operations and say, we need to fix all of the issues before we can continue developing and shipping this product?
I created the log right away. I took a few days. The team was still working, but I created the log right away because culture will always block innovation. And right then we didn't have, it wasn't the small things that filled up the log that was the problem. It was the emotions that were the problem. That was what was going to block innovation and curiosity. And really, I don't even know that they cared so much about the little things. They cared about not being heard, or not feeling seen, or not feeling like a contributor. And so I immediately created the log and put out an email in which I was extremely vulnerable. We're all learning on this team. We're all going to screw it up. And hopefully we screw it up quickly, because then we can make it better. I joke with my team, I say, F it up fast. Because if you're not out there trying and being creative, well, what goes hand in hand with being creative? Messing it up. So we have to have the permission to mess it up in order to make things better. And so taking the time and saying, hey, I screwed up. I screwed up by not allowing space or the place for y'all to be able to come forward, which then compounded and created an emotional block between me and my team, between me and you, right? This was me addressing them. And so I created this log. You can always book 15 minutes with me at any time. And it's also still important to keep the subject matter of the meetings when we're trying to ship the subject matter of the meetings. Here's other ways that we can connect.
Absolutely. I really like the term you used, people over profits, because the old style mentality in the corporate world is you need to increase profitability to please the shareholders. And I see more and more companies, large and small, coming towards this more purpose-driven mentality where they're asking themselves, what do we actually want to do in the world? What do we want to do for our people? What in your mind does people over profits mean, though? Does it mean you're willing to make less profit in order to have an environment which is better for your people, or what's behind that?
I think that when we focus on people, we make more profits. I believe that people first businesses can be more profitable because when we focus on people, the profits come. When we focus on profits, we lose sight of our people. And the driving force behind being profitable, especially in a service-based business, is connection. Is people feeling seen, people feeling heard, people feeling like their needs are being met. People's needs are met when we're able to set expectations and then meet expectations, which is communication. Like all of this is very emotional when we sit down and look at it. Like it's connection, it's belonging. It's belonging to a company. And when we feel like we belong in a company, we can treat our clients the same. So you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your clients. And then love is what's radiating through, right? Connection is what's radiating through. And I think that when we are focusing on profits and driving in numbers and that grind mentality, we don't feel as valued. Our clients don't feel as valued. We feel like a number, our clients feel like a number, and then that's what's radiating through.
I like a lot of what you're talking about. I have, however, also worked with a lot of large companies that would be petrified of changing their entire culture towards what you're describing now. And some of the fears that they probably come up with is they're all at the end of the day based around fear that if you allow people to act in their most authentic way, something's going to go wrong. But also if you allow people to act in the way that they want, some people are going to abuse that system. So have you had any experiences where after you move towards this people first mentality, this love-driven leadership, where you've had to bring some tough love on individuals, or have you just seen everyone bring 100% performance every day purely out of their own actions?
We're always going to have tough love. People are always going to mess it up, and people are always going to push boundaries, right? That's human nature. And that just means maybe they're not a right culture fit, right? Like we still are making business decisions. We're still a for-profit company. And it's just that maybe that boundary setting, or maybe that tough love, looks a little different than what it does in the corporate world, but of course it still exists. And there's still going to be people that aren't right for your company. But it starts with compassion and understanding, but it's absolutely sometimes still needs to be sharp and still needs to be pointed and still needs to be firm.
Absolutely. So what does, if I may ask, your team look like? You talk about bringing in people who can express themselves authentically. Does that sort of go into your recruitment process as well? Or is it just once someone's there, you find out who that person is?
I think it starts at day one. People that are attracted to Auditmate, that know Auditmate, know who we are and how we operate, right? Especially if you're coming out of the elevator world. We operate much different than the elevator world does. And I wouldn't say much different than a lot of tech, because there's a lot of startups that are purpose driven, as you've said. But what we look like is, we're a diverse team. We're spread all around the country. We have folks from different countries. We have folks from Alaska to New York. We have someone that will wear a suit and tie every day, and then we have someone that's wearing a beanie and a hoodie, right? So we are different and we show up, right? Like, of course, if you're in front of a customer, there are certain ways to present, which everybody understands, right? Like, if you have a black tie event and you show up in sweatpants, like, that's going to be probably more uncomfortable for the person in sweatpants, right? So most humans are going to naturally gravitate toward, I don't know. I don't want to say fitting in, because that's such an icky term to me that in my eyes has a negative connotation, but we're still adults and we're still professional.
Absolutely. Ashleigh, it's been wonderful speaking with you. If people want to find out more about Auditmate, about yourself, about People Over Profits, what's the best place they can go to find out more?
Auditmate.com is our website if you want to learn more about Auditmate. And then for me personally, LinkedIn, Ashleigh Wilson, is going to be where I post most.
Perfect. I'll make sure to get those links down in the description below. Ashleigh, it's been wonderful speaking with you, and I look forward to speaking again with you soon.
You as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave me a comment about what you thought and what you'd like to see more about. If you want to take your creativity and innovation capabilities to the next level, then invest in yourself with the premium training only available at ideatovalue.com. These exclusive training modules have all been put together by me, Nick Skillicorn, and have been used by thousands of artists, innovation leaders, and CEOs to become better at understanding the source of their creativity and executing on their innovation ambitions. And there is no risk to you, as they are backed by our money-back guarantee. Now, don't forget to go out there and make your ideas a reality. See you again soon.